Typical. Jeez. It's typical, isn't it? Every time you try to do something. Hi guys, by the way. Every time you try to do something, I've either selected the wrong mission here, or yeah, there's a particular helicopter I'm after at the moment, so just bear with me.
Just_Glyn said.
Hey, just Glyn. Anyway, all I'm going to do today is follow on from something that I've mentioned when I've been streaming. Modified 16th. This looks like the right one. I can't see why I can't see the server there. That's the problem. I'm sure it's in the right place. Yep, looks like it. I might be going a little bit blind. Right, so I'm going to go through the Hueys from scratch, and I'll explain why in a minute when I can actually get the right mission running. Then I'll go through and why this particular helicopter is so important if you want to fly helicopters. And I can't find the one I'm after. It's just the position of it. It's just a little bit easier. And I want it in a specific position, he says. I don't know why I can't see it. Otherwise it places them all on the dirt, which is no good at all. Unless it's gone right to the end. Yeah, there we go. It's right at the bottom. Okay, right, my mistake. Right, so basically, over the past few weeks, there's quite a few people ask about the Apache and about how they struggle with the controls of the Apache. And one of the questions I always ask is, have you ever flown the Huey? And very often the answer is no. And that's because people see the Apache, know what the Apache can do, and therefore want to jump straight into the Apache. But the reality is the Apache is very different. And to understand how to fly the Apache, I always recommend starting with the Huey first. In fact, any helicopter that you ever want to fly, always start with the Huey. The reason being is this has got so few systems, if any, on it. It's you flying it, and basically
Huey is awesome.
It is one of the most fun helicopters to fly. But if you can get to grips with this helicopter, then when you move on to any other helicopter, it's going to help you a lot. And I always suggest going from this, understanding how to trim the Shark, and then once you can do that, then you go to the Apache, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, so this is so easy to start up. It's very basic. You are flying it. Okay, so unlike the other helicopters even, which have systems in place to help you, this has very little. So I'll go through the startup, and then I'll go through a couple of exercises, and then we'll have a little look at this, and then we'll have a little look at the Shark. The biggest thing about the Shark is how it trims, and then we'll have a little look at the Apache and how the things that you learn from the Huey and the Shark will help with the Apache. Okay, that's the plan, and this is practice for me for making a video. Anyway, let's go up here, and what we're going to do now is switch this knob here onto AC phase, this one 2 clicks onto essential buzz. We're going to switch the main generator down and put the battery on. The other thing is this helicopter's so damn cheap as well in a sale. Okay, so that's the low RPM warning. We're going to switch that off. We're going to put the fuel on. We're going to put the hydraulics, force trim, and the chip detector forward, and then let go. I'll put the axis on so you can see what's going on. We're then going to open up the throttle all the way and then bring it all the way back. And the easiest way of doing that is with page up, or you can use this on here. And then we bring it all the way back down. If you notice, it doesn't go all the way down, it goes down to this line. If it's any higher than that, you're going to get flames coming out the engine. We're going to shut the doors with a right control C. Okay, and then we're going to start it up. When we start this up, we're going to look at the gas producer here, and we're going to hold it down. Okay, we'll hold the start button down, which is behind the collective, and we just keep holding until this needle reaches 40. As you see, the rotor started turning already, and we'll let go at 40. You can also see the RPM increasing. There's 2 needles there, one for the engine, one for the rotor. And this is going to go up and settle at 40. Once it's settled at 40, we're going to carry on and open up the throttle completely. So we're going to start moving this up, and we don't want to move it too fast. We want to try and keep these 2 needles together. And you'll see the needles will go all the way up, and you keep pushing, well, depending on how you're turning this. As I said, you can use page up, and we'll go all the way to the top, and once it's at the top, you'll see these needles settle down into the green, which is where we need them. Okay, right, we've got 2 alarms, and one is IFF, and all we've got to do is rotate this knob 1 click, and the other one is the inverter, which is back where we started. So we're going to put the inverter down and the starter generator down. Okay, if you notice, we've got a master caution, and this will always light up and stay on until you reset it. Hey Arthur.
Is it Saturday already?
Not quite, matey. This is completely unplanned, but I thought I'll jump in. Gives me a good chance to practice something. Okay, so we can reset that by pressing this button forward, and you'll see the light goes off. Okay, how are you, Arthur? Right, so if we look down here, we've got a compass, and it says we're at north. And if we look over here, we've got a magnetic compass, and it says we're 2 notches over from north. So I need to adjust this with a synchronizing knob, and we simply turn it so that it's 2 notches away. Now as we turn, you notice here we can see a cross and a circle. If you can see a circle, the setting is wrong. If you can see a cross, the setting is wrong. What we need to do is see half a circle and half a cross. Okay, so we're moving to round about there, which more or less matches that there, and that's about half a circle. Now to me it always looks like it's more circle than cross, but if you look here you can see that's on the 2nd notch, and this one's on the 2nd notch too, and that's it. Very easy helicopter to start up, but the controls and the controls of any helicopter are quite difficult, and this is what catches people out. So when you jump into something more sophisticated such as an Apache, if you haven't got the basics nailed down about controls and various things that can go wrong, then you are going to struggle with the Apache. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just take off, and then I'm going to maneuver and find out where the wind is. In fact, let's have a look at the wind first. So if we do left alt B, we'll see the briefing, and right at the bottom, right, we have the weather, and you can see right down at ground level we've got a 3 meters per second wind. That's some wind, and it's coming from, right, if we look over, it's coming from 209 degrees and blowing towards 29 degrees. We need to know where that is, so that when we get to the next stage we'll be able to trim in ground effect, and I'll explain that in a minute. To take off with a Huey, we simply start increasing the collective. Now when you increase the collective, it increases the pitch on the blades that will start to lift you up, and we need to do this to get off the floor. So you'll see the collective moving up, that increases the pitch on the blades. However, with the Huey, if I just do that, we're going to go up in the air, forward, rotate round to the right, and just flop over on our side. Okay, so what we need to do is add some rudder. Oh man, I don't know what it is with my rudders recently. I put them on and they just disappear. So let's bear in mind, here they are, and if we go to the axis, your pedals, right, you can see they're not actually doing anything. So let's just do a quick rescan, see if it picks them up. Otherwise I'm going to have to get under the table, which is not great. When you do a rescan, it'll go and pick up all your controllers, and I don't know why it's picked up the 3D connection device again. It's not even switched on, but hey. Not sure whether it's finished. No, it hasn't. It does look like it's going to crash sometimes. Yeah, they're bound on it, but there's nothing on there. There's no device. I think it's just the driver it picks up. Let's have a look, see if it's got them. No, it's still not got them. I'll take these off. We don't want anything on there, to be honest. But there's no actual device on there. Let's reset the whole stack down here. Oh, got to click up here and select it. Or reset. Oh no, I'll just do it manually. Otherwise I'm going to end up just wiping the whole lot by accident. It'll be interesting if that's all it is, but it happens in Star Citizen too. So I'm not sure whether I'm knocking that connector at the back where it is. But it's just not detecting them, as you can see. Oh, right. Okay, it's got the throttle. You're nothing. Right, enable hot plug. Rescan devices. In fact, what I'll do is, let's go down here. Press this off. You watch it all crash now. Right, little button by the side of the side of my leg with all the USBs in. It's just a case of remembering which one's which. I was having fun the other day when I went to do some recording. If it wasn't one thing, it was another thing. You know the way it is, works perfectly when you stream. You come to do a recording and you get all sorts of issues, but hey ho. Can you hear the music in the background? Well, I'm not doing recordings at the moment. Someone's watching a film and it's a bit loud because they're off sick. Can you hear it? Oh no, it drops it down, doesn't it, when I stop talking? It's not loud enough to trigger the mics. Right, okay, let's try this. Nice. Come on. Man. Is it finished yet? No. No, it's doing it, but that's the wrong thing. Don't know why it's up there. Oh look, it's put all these back in. Throttle. Oh, it's completely gone now. It's over here now. Okay, there we go. So it's put in a different place. Okay, so to take off, because of the rotor, which is going, if we have a little look, it's going around to the left anti-clockwise. We need to use the tail rotor or anti-torque rotor to counter the torque generated. So what will happen is the propeller goes left and that will force the helicopter to spin to the right. So to prevent that, we're going to push about 30% or 33%, about a third or so, on this little box. We're giving it left, and as we start to get light, we're also going to pull this stick back and down to the left, okay, to counter the movement that way. So you'll see in a minute as it takes off. If it goes to the right, we need more left. If it goes to the left, we need more right, okay, or less left. So you can see now.
Mr. Penguin 34 said, for a second I thought you were new to DCS until you joined.
Oh right, no. This is me explaining if you've missed it, and if you're on Twitch. Best livery. There you might see. So basically, you can see we've got some semblance of control over the helicopter, okay? And what we need to do is get into a position where we can actually make this as stationary as possible. So we've already looked at the wind. We've also got a windsock over there.
I'm F-16/Veggie Pilot.
F-16/Veggie Pilot. Ah, I'll fly a few things. I've got the F-16. I've never flown it yet. So what we're going to do is do an exercise, right, of having this thing hover in ground effect. So you can more or less be hands-free with the controls. Okay. Now the way we do that right? And the thing is with helicopters, this is another thing. People jump into Apaches with no idea on how to control a helicopter, okay? So what you need to do is learn that for making helicopters work, you do tiny, tiny, small movements with a stick, okay? So what I'm going to do is lift up, put my nose in the wind, trim the helicopter, and then let go of the stick and then see what the helicopter does. Now what trimming does, especially in this type of helicopter, back in the olden days when it was used, as soon as you start flying, it puts an awful lot of strain on your arm. So what trimming does in a helicopter, which is different to trimming on a plane, it basically puts the stick, or the cyclic as it's called, into a position and it stays there. And it usually does it with friction or magnetism, uses magnets, okay? In real life, your joystick has got a big spring under it, unless you're using a force feedback force feedback spring. And the issue is, as soon as you relax, your stick goes back to normal, goes back to the center position. So there's a way that DCS does it, and I think it's called center stick trimming method. And what you have to do is you trim the helicopter by moving the stick and pressing the trimmer. It trims as soon as you select that button, and then you must relax your grip on your stick in real life, which will return to the center. The stick in game will stay exactly where it is, where you trimmed it. And I'll show you what I mean. Right, I'm going to trim that now. So I've trimmed it. Now, I am moving my real life stick around its extremities, and you notice the stick in game isn't moving at all. When you trim the helicopter, if you do not relax your grip back to the center, what's going to happen is you will have no control, okay? And whilst this seems a little bit weird, this is how, and this is the easiest way to use trimming in a helicopter in this game. So if you watch the stick, as I start to allow my normal real life joystick to center, you'll see it do a little bobble. There it is. And as soon as it's done a little bobble, I now have control again, okay? If you look at the diagram on the top left, you can see the stick is trimmed slightly to the left. If I reset the trim, you'll see the in-game stick jump back. It's completely different as a generalization. However, when you come across a couple of helicopters, it trims more like a plane. So the only thing in this helicopter that's trimmed is the cyclic, okay? So in a helicopter, your joystick is called the cyclic, and it controls your pitch and roll, okay? And that's it. When you trim it, the stick just stays where you put it, look, okay? So now it's slightly left. If I reset trim, you see it's center. There is another method where it's called instant trim. You really don't want to use instant trim. What that one does is when you move the stick, the second you hit the trim button, it will trim it and look at where your real life stick is and add that on. All right? So basically what that's doing is doubling the amount of trim. So instead of having that, you'll have twice as much, and I can't move my stick that far, otherwise my propeller's going to jump off. So what we want to do is trim this so this stick is in a position that allows the helicopter to sit in ground effect. Now there's a little bit of wind, as I said earlier, and I know it's in that direction because of the windsock, And in fact, if you remember, it's around about 209, so it's around about here. Okay, so if we head in that direction or point that direction, we can trim it. Now the way you trim this, right, is very, very subtle. I'm going to zoom in. Now my stick is in the center, and then I've got I think it's a 6 centimeter extension tube on it. When I used to do this and I've got a stick on my desk, I guarantee you would not see the stick move when I was doing this exercise. So I'm going to show you the exaggerated movement. When I lift up, if the helicopter's moving forward and I need to adjust, I will move the stick back and relax, and back and relax, and I'll do that lots of times. And then as the helicopter starts to stop, I'll trim it and then let go of the stick. Okay, you can just relax your grip on the stick and it'll center, and then see what it does then. Now the reason I'm showing you this is because the reality is more like this, and I'm moving that forward and middle quite a lot, right, quite fast, but you don't notice it. Okay, so it's forward, middle, only this speed, like that, smaller, and you move a helicopter by gently nudging it. Right? Now, once upon a time, a long time ago, I went to repair a computer, one of my customers, who was a helicopter instructor. And when I went to go, he says, "Have you got to rush off?" And I says, "No, why?" He says, "Do you fancy a spin in a helicopter?" And of course, I was like, "Yeah, go on then." So he took it up, and then he basically gave me the control of the stick. Now, it's a dual control helicopter. He is an instructor. That was his job, right? I don't like heights. It's really... It is quite useful. The idea is I'll go through this, then show you the trimming in the Shark, and then show you how it applies, right, to the Apache, because I see so many people jumping into the Apache and struggling with it, and that's because there's too many automated systems, whereas this is so simple. If you learn this, it's going to give you a leg up with all the other helicopters. Okay, so when I was flying this helicopter, we're at 1,500 feet, moving along about 90 mile. He gives me the joystick and said, "Right, now I want you to move it, so we move over there." And what I did was what everybody's likely to do. I pushed the stick forward like that, right? I just moved it forward and nothing happened. And I was like, "Oh, that's a bit weird." So I pushed it a bit more. And then suddenly the helicopter starts to react to the first push. And then it was like, oh shit, because when it reacted to the first push, it was then going to react to the second push. So I countered that by pulling it back like this, okay? And no kidding you, I'd got this helicopter at 1,500 foot doing 90 mile an hour, performing a little bit like a bucking bronco.
Do you teach other aircraft? Are they over 16 and getting better with the VIC-Gene?
I used to fly a lot more aircraft, but I haven't for ages, for various reasons. A10C, yeah, you know, I know that one inside out and have done for years. But I used to fly the F-18, the AV-8. I have got the VIG and I flew it when it first come out. I don't think, no, I've not flown the F-16. There's lots of things and I need to pick up on them and get as good. And I've got the time to do it at the moment, so that's what I'm planning on doing. So what he told me was, he said, "You hold the stick and I'll move it and you see what happens." And what he did was he held the stick with his fingertips, I kid you not.
The Vigan is when I got it to M1.21.
Oh, right, yeah, the Vigan is quite good. I do have a couple of guys who fly Vigans when we fly on a Saturday, but they're from Sweden. and one of them used to work on the Vegans, hence why he's so proud of it. So you move the stick like this. Right now, again, you can't see that moving, but trust me, it is. It's like this. There we go. This is a bigger version. So it's lots of tiny little nudges. So think of it as like balancing, and you're just offsetting the balance. We have, but it's very rare for me to use Discord. I'm old, so I like my TeamSpeak. There is a Discord. If you do ! Discord, you should see it there. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing when I trim is lots of tiny little movements, hit the trimmer and relax. And I want to try and get this to hover in ground effect. So ground effect.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. When the rotors rotate the way they are, as soon as you start to give it some collective, or you're changing the pitch on the rotors, it pulls the air down. That air hits the ground and bounces back up, and that's going to give me a cushion to sit on, and that cushion is 1 diameter deep of the blades. So if you look at the blades, all right, I can't remember the exact measurement, but we're in ground effect when we're hovering no more than the diameter of those blades, and it makes it really easy. Okay, you're floating. So what I want to do is float in ground effect and then trim the helicopter. It might not be perfectly still, but it'll be pretty damn close, and that will center the in-game stick into a neutral position and then allow me to maneuver the helicopter around in ground effect. Okay, so I'm going to take off. Remember, it's going to turn, it's going to move around. So I'm using the lines. Okay, I'm using these lines on here and right now. I'm going to do it in a minute. And I'm going to press the trim now. Let go of my stick. Okay, it's going that way. So I'm moving gently. I'm going to do it. We can see it's obviously moving back. So now I'm moving it forward lots of little times until it slows it down. And then I'm going to press the trim again. And each time I press the trim, you'll see the stick wobble. Okay, so I'm doing it again now. I think I might have set this wind too high, but we'll see. Now, the reason why I do it over on the tarmac, well, on the slabs, is because when you're over grass, it's really quite difficult. It's easier in the field. Let me move forward a little bit and get back over there. But you can use the horizontal and vertical lines as a point of reference. Okay, so you can see which way you're moving, which way you're sliding. So I'm not too far off. Let me move a bit more. Let me just do it there. Okay, that's not too bad. After a little bit, you'll find it can just drift off. But I always think of the wind as having something to lean against. Helicopters naturally will rotate towards the wind and put their nose into the wind. It's called the weather vane effect. And that's why it makes sense when you're going to trim into the wind. Okay, that's not bad. Now, when you've got that point of reference, what that will do... Hey, Barbie. I bet you did as well. Was that bacon sandwiches by any chance? Have you had them already? Let me move over, or is that just a weekend thing? So what this is now going to allow you to do, now you've got this point that is nearly at a stop, is it's going to allow you to control the helicopter with the slightest, and I mean the slightest of movements. All right. So let's have a look. Let's let go. My stick sometimes sticks a little bit forward, so I'm trying to allow for that as well.
Mr._Penguin34 said, I think since I'm in the US the website won't work.
Ah, right, yes. It could well be.
Tea Kettle Babbitt said, bacon sarnie on a Wednesday, whatever next.
Yeah, exactly. But you get the gist. So what can I do now? So now we've got that balanced. If I hold the stick properly, okay, then I can make it completely still, he says, just by very small movements. If you watch the stick, it's really quite difficult to see the stick moving around, okay? If I want to go forward, watch the stick, watch the indicator, and now I'm moving forward. All right. If I want to stop it, I just pull back very gently, doing lots of tiny little movements, and it stops. If I want to go sideways, make it go sideways. Okay. Again, I'm moving it to the side, to the middle, etc., etc.
Penguin 34 said, well, Pinhead to bed, keep up the good work, man, and hope you have a great rest of your stream.
Cheers, thank you very much. So what you should really be doing at this stage, instead of just flying off, you want to fly around, and the way I would explain it is you want to test, because when you first get into this, you have no idea where the blades are in terms of width. You don't know how long the helicopter is. You don't know what gaps you can go through, all right? So you want to find yourself some obstacles. Now, I'm on the Caucasus map at Krasnodar Central, and there's some hangars down this end, right? So I'm going to move down there. So ignore what I'm doing for now. I will explain this later. But you can see it's just picking up speed. Can you see the speedo as well? It's not really doing a lot. But this is all in ground effect. Now it's got a bit of speed. Look, I've let go. I mean, the helicopter's just slowing itself down. But what you want to do is practice around obstacles. Usually one of the first things you do is go flying in the helicopter. You'll find you're very wobbly. You panic at the slightest thing that you get near. You'll pull it out of the sky. You'll VRS and you'll crash. The beauty of this helicopter is it's so quick to start up, especially when somebody's not explaining it to you, that it makes it very easy to get back in and start again. Doesn't take up a lot of time. It's one of the few things in DCS that you can actually jump into for a quick half an hour. Right, so I'm moving down here because I know where the hangars are, and I'll show you a nice little exercise that will help you control. And once you get the gist of this, trying to pick up a sling load with this helicopter is really, really easy. It's one of the hardest things to do, and it's all about control. For instance, if I want to stop that now, look, I'm moving my stick so small that you can't see it, and the helicopter stops. Okay, now we'll carry on. See the diamond there? You can just about see that going around a little bit, but the stick itself is minimal movement in it. As I said, when my joystick was on my desk with my computer, I didn't even have to move it. I just tensed or put pressure on my fingers, and the helicopter would move. Now I know where my blades are. I say that, and I'll probably end up losing them in a tree. And I know how long the helicopter is, and I'm not going through those trees down there because something will go wrong. I'm not going to risk it at this stage. I'll no doubt crash later. But the gist is, find yourself some hangars like these, okay? Let's move around. And use these hangars to practice with. The last thing you want to do in a helicopter is do a panicky move, because the chances are you will lose it. You can still see it's showing speed as virtually zero. We are still floating around on that cushion of air, known as ground effect. ground effect doesn't just affect when you're above the ground. It will impact if you're on a ship trying to climb a mountain, over a building, or any solid object whatsoever. I was doing well there, I wasn't coughing. Okay, so what we're going to do is manoeuvre around the hangars. The hangars are made of concrete. Okay, I know it's like graphics, but you get the gist. They're very unforgiving. So you don't want to be going fast. So I'm slowing this down. We're going to manoeuvre, excuse me, around and fly in between hangars. When you fly over little gaps like the one we're going through, just bear in mind where the rotor is. You are going to hit the hangars, you are going to lose your rotor. I'll probably hit the hangars and also lose my rotor too. Okay, so it's not unique, but the more you can practice moving around little gaps and moving in tight situations, the more control you're going to gain over your helicopter. Okay, you don't just have to think once you've moved through a gap. Oops, let's open that there. What you also have to be aware of is where your tail is. So you can see the way we're moving around this. We're close. If I get too close, I might have to go a bit higher because of the rotors. So we're going to nudge it over there. And as I said earlier, everything's a nudge. There's a tree here, we need to be aware of that. Don't want to get too close, or I can go a little bit higher just so that we don't catch the blades on the top of it. We can go through this gap here, and then when we go around the other one, I'm slowing down a little bit here again. This is a really big gap. Okay, we can see a little gap there, but you get the gist. And the more you do this and the more control you'll get, the easier it becomes. If you see yourself drifting a little bit, don't do panicky moves. You've got to anticipate, and you've got to basically make sure that you're doing these tiny little movements before you actually need to stop. Okay, we can spin around this one. As long as we keep close to this, the tail's going to go straight over there and round there. Might not be able to do it here, or would I? Let's have a little look, move a bit closer, and then we should have room for the length of the back of the helicopter and the tail. If you fly in VR, this is so much easier to do. I'm just flying on a flat 2D screen. As soon as you put VR on, you'll look and you'll see gaps in things that you would never contemplate moving in between. Alright, so you get the gist, and just use these hangers. You can, if you want to, lift up really gently, keep control of the helicopter, and then slide over the top, bearing in mind what I said about ground effect. So ground effect is going to impact the helicopter as we go over here. Okay, and then back down the other side. Just beware where your tail is, and then don't go too fast. The reason why you don't want to go too fast is because the helicopter is going to start to take off, and then you've got to get it back down under control again. It's not difficult to do, but when you're new, it's quite difficult, right, to get control, and it's the control that you need when you fly helicopters. You can then start going in between trees and looking at trees and trying to work out what you can go between. For instance, this one is fairly obvious. Everybody should know that we can get through that one quite easily. Can we get through the one behind it? I don't know. If we go through 90 degrees to the gap, it's going to be a lot easier. If you start going through slightly sideways or off at an angle, then you'll find it a little bit harder to do. Yeah, we'll just about get through maybe. And then we're going to push round to the left. Watch the blades on that tree. Round here. Keep the blades above there. And there's a little gap here. It's speeding up a little bit. Slow it down. Get the chopper through here. The blades are over the trees at the moment. We'll turn out to the right. Push left slightly. Push right slightly. Do you get the gist? Seriously, I mean, when I learned years and years ago, I spent ages just doing this. Partly to make sure that I could control it. And there's a level of satisfaction as well associated with it. You know, can I get through there? Can I get through there? And it'll really help. Right, you see we've increased our height. We've also increased our speed. And coming down is always the difficult bit when you first start. Right, anyone got any questions about that bit? We're obviously outside of ground effect now. We haven't got a cushion of air. So we need to come down. Now, if you notice, this is the vertical speed indicator. We're still climbing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is come down over here. And I'm slowly... Oh, getting into a VRS there. I'll explain that in a minute. I am slowly dropping the collective. See the speed coming down, look. Dropping the collective a little bit. And I'm just nudging the helicopter back. Now, when you see things on film sometimes, helicopters just come in and go straight down. If you try and do that, you will crash. So what I'm going to do is try and slowly bring it down. As it's coming down, we're moving forward. Okay. And what I'm doing then is also lowering the helicopter by dropping the collective, but keeping an eye on that vertical speed indicator. You can see it's pointing slightly down, so we'll come down. But if it goes below that little 5, which is just there, it's going to make it more difficult. And eventually you'll find yourself come down and you'll be floating on that cushion of air again as soon as you're within the length of the blades. And once you're down again, you'll be on a cushion of air floating around. Right, now that's what you've got to learn, that control with this helicopter. Okay, you can see you can just make it stop with just the right level of control, but again, you don't see much movement from the stick. You get my gist. If I just let go, the helicopter should just float itself on the cushion of air. It's a little bit low. I'm going to raise it just a smidge. And then if I turn it round just by using the rudders, as long as there's nothing to go, you'll find... where am I going? This way a little bit. As I turn it round towards where we trimmed it, the helicopter's naturally going to slow down. I've not got my hands on anything, by the way. This is just rudder. See the way the helicopter's starting to slow down? It's not going to go completely slow because I've got a little bit too much movement on it. But I can stop it just by touching the joystick, moving it a fraction, and the helicopter's back under control again. Okay. It does take a while to learn. There's other techniques for landing. VRSing is a term you heard me mention before. So what VRS means is vortex ring state. So when the helicopter's floating around in the air, okay, the air pattern is very regular and it swirls round, and that's how the helicopter is flying. When you start to descend, if you descend too quickly, you're moving into the helicopter's airflow and it's becoming turbulent. When it becomes turbulent, it doesn't produce any lift. When it doesn't produce any lift, you will drop out the air like a brick. And if any of you have tried helicopters, which I'm sure some of you have, you'll drop out the air like a brick and keep going. And the first thing to do, or first thing you'll try, is to increase the collective. And what that does is puts more pitch on the blades, and it makes it worse, and you will drop quicker. The correct thing to do if you feel yourself going, providing you're high enough, is to put the collective down. Down. And flatten the blades. That was the wrong way. So that the blades are flat. And then push the cyclic in any direction. You should be able to recover a helicopter in about 10 foot. So you should only drop down about 10 feet. And that's what I meant by you've got to be high enough. So has everyone got the general gist? Anyone got any questions on what I've explained about how to get control of the helicopter and trimming? Yes, no? I know some of you will do. So what I'm going to do now is jump into a shark. Now, I'm not going to jump into the shark to go through how to start the shark, unless anyone specifically wants to know. What I'm going to do is jump in and show you how the trimming works on the shark. And the reason for that is you now know how to move a helicopter around, how to be careful. The shark trimming...
Thank you for the follow, Spider-Man 79.
Oh, thank you for the follow there.
Well said. Thank you for the follow, Spider-Man 79.
The shark trimming is a little bit unique.
Said Soviet helicopters have the best trim.
Yeah, TH, you're right. Right, so I'll get this thing started up. There is a little bit that I can show you that doesn't usually happen on a weekend, and that's to do with alignment. This is a Shark 3, and a Shark 3 basically has a specific way of aligning, whereas the Shark 2 there is no alignment. I'm not explaining all the switches because for the purposes of what I'm trying to explain at the moment, it's not relevant. Okay, if you want to go through the startup, it should be on the video that I've got from Saturday's stream. But there'll be a point in a minute where I should have to align this once I've got it started. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so I'll just get the left engine going. And then the right engine. And then we'll have a little look. I know what I haven't done. There we go.
Is it possible to recover a hind overspeed?
Oh God, it's really difficult, isn't it? It's something called retreating blade, I think. It's at me a few times. I think the rule is don't do it. You got to know your limits. Do you know what I mean? It's like even this. Sometimes you can pull this too hard, and you'll just drop out. It will not respond to any controls. And the hind has a habit of rolling over to the right, doesn't it, when you start going too fast? But it's something to do with retreating blade, and I'm not exactly 100% sure what it is, but that's the term that's used. I'm not quite a helicopter nerd or a flying nerd, and I've not really flown anything in real life, unlike so many who do DCS. Right, so we've got the left one going. I'm just going to pop the voice warn on and the intercom button there. And then we'll hear some messages when we get to that point, which is to do with alignment. I can't see the switch there, look. There it is. So just don't worry about these bits for now. It's quite easy to start. It always looks quite complicated. It's not. Once you've done one engine, the other engine's the same. It's just flying is a different technique. I'm streaming at the moment, by the way, just in case you weren't aware. It was far too noisy to be able to record with your... What film was it you were watching?
Interview with...
Vampire. It was really loud in parts. Right. It's alright, she's off sick at the moment. Okay, so we're just waiting for this to get all the way up. And what I'll do is put this guard on. Now, this is something I can't show on a Saturday because the particular mission, I believe, has got an auto align. It's either the mission or my helicopter. I hope it's not my helicopter, but an update may have switched it on. So what I'm going to do is put the engines into work mode and we'll hear some messages, okay? And we do that by pressing page up twice, okay? So throttle's down here. If you listen, you hear the messages.
Electrics on battery. Doppler navigation system failure. No nav data.
Okay, so the messages, right, are read out because of this little switch here. So electrics are on battery, so I need to put them onto the generators. Doppler navigation's not working yet, and we've got no nav data. Okay, as you can see, we don't know where we're going. So I'm going to put the electrics on battery. I mean the battery, I'm going to put it on electric, okay? And then what we're going to do is switch on this device. On the Shark 2, normally we would have already switched on the INU or inertial navigation unit, but in the Shark 3 we need to switch this device on first. And if this is aligned, it means that one of the patches in DCS has switched the feature on. I don't think so, but we'll find out. We're then going to switch INU up. Excellent. So this symbol appears in the hood, and that stays there for 3 minutes while it does an alignment. Right, energy, retreating blade stall, there you go. Thank you very much for that explanation. Excellent. All right, cock. And it always goes to the right, and it always, let me think if this is right. The lift on the blades is always 90 degrees to the direction you're going, depending on, 90 degrees to the direction that you're going, and also the direction the blade rotates as well, I think. So that always rotates on the right hand side. Going, is it anti-clockwise or not? I can't remember. But yeah, thank you. That's a good explanation, and that's why it does it THC. And you're basically buggered. So while we're waiting for this to align, and remember, the only reason we're jumping into this is to make it easier to fly the Apache, okay? If we look, this has got 2 blades counter-rotating. That will cancel out any torque, and there's no tail rotor or anti-torque rotor on the back. It also means that all your control surfaces, your rudder, your cyclic, are going through the blades. And the collective, obviously. So it's the trimming aspect we want. Now, if you have got an Apache and you're struggling with it, and you haven't got the Huey or the Shark,
Energy 999 cents. said, only recovery is having enough altitude below you that you'll lose enough speed in your tumble to regain control before you hit dirt.
Yeah, but very often I think people are probably flying too low. If you haven't got the Huey or the Shark, then you can download it free for 2 weeks to have a play with it. You don't need to buy them, but if you start with the Huey and get the gist of it and get basic helicopter control, and then have a flight of the Shark to understand how the trimmer works, when you get to the Apache, you'll find it's so much easier. It's different, but easier and understandable. So what we can see here then, now that this is aligned, is there's a 10-degree difference between this diamond and this triangle, and they need to be the same. Okay, one of them is the trimmer system and one of them is the heading. If we go and have a little look on the map, we can find out where our heading is. All right, and I think it's 357. If we do, oh, what am I doing? If we do F10 and just click on here, right, 357. So you'll see that this is at 357 and this is 10 degrees above. And we make them the same by going down to this little rotary on the right. Note where this currently is, and I'll tell you what there will be later. And we're going to adjust this to 357. Okay. Let me switch my clutch off. We only need to go back a bit. 357. Now, as you look at the little graduations on this, you'll find one of them is a little bit thicker. Can you see? So there it is on 6. These are thinner. It'll be that one there. Okay, 357. And then we're going to push this switch. Let's move this out of the way. MH. We're going to push it down and then back to the middle. And then we're going to put this back where it is, or should be. And if you've forgotten where it is, if you go back to the map, zoom out, you'll see this compass rose. And if we bring it over here and put it over the helicopter, it'll tell us what the deviate magnetic variance is. That's the word. Okay, 7.8ish. So this was set previously to 7.8, which is nearly 8. We put this back to where it was. 7, 2, 4, 6, 8. It's about there. Okay, just before 8. We look in the hood now. We've got the diamond and the triangle both in the same place. Right, so once that's done, you can carry on starting the helicopter up. And it is just a case of switching everything on. VHF 1, 2, data link, VHF talk, data link here on there. If you're flying with other people, set that to wingman and choose a number. Put these channels on. Now these channels that I'm putting on, if we have a look, again, thinking Apache. Let's try and look down there. These are more or less the equivalent of SAS on the Apache and the A10, which is stability augmentation system. So they will smooth out your flight. You have pitch, bank and heading. So they're the similar sort of thing. We're going to put the seat ejection system on. I want to switch the switches. Not too close to it. There we go. And then we're going to put the fire extinguisher on. And then round the back, right shoulder, and there's the L140. which is the laser rangefinder and weapons guidance and the UV-26. And if we look, that's on. Okay. One last thing is the standby attitude indicator power on, and then we reset this. Just balance it out. Okay, so I'll put the axis on for this, and we can see that on the bottom right. Because I'm not going to take off on the runway, I'm going to leave the brakes on. If your brakes are off, which can easily be switched off by pressing a brake pedal, depending how you've got them set, look, it goes off. But Shift W will put it back on again. Okay, and we'll leave it on for now. So I'm going to take off in this, and then we'll look at the trimming and how that aligns with what the Apache is doing. Okay, so if I just take off, again, when we were in the Huey earlier, if we just take off, the helicopter will go forward, roll to the right, also spin round as we go. This helicopter hasn't got a problem with torque, but if I just take off, it's going to go backwards. Okay.
Thank you for the follow. Too much hair product.
Oh, too much hair product. Thanks for the follow. Okay, so I'm going to increase the collective, and then I'm also going to push the stick forward. Now, if the brake's not on, I will start rolling forward. If I'm on a surface like this, I'll roll forward into something I shouldn't. If I'm on one of the FARPs, I'll roll off it and damage the helicopter. Okay, we also don't want to go backwards. So what I'm going to do is increase the collective as it starts to get light on wheels. I'm going to push the stick forward. There we go. I'm going to actually trim it. And then we'll have a look at the trimming system. Let's have a look in the hood. Okay, so we're going to take the undercarriage up, and let's have a look. So this is our speed, this is our altitude, this is in kilometers, this is in meters, and there's a little line there. And if I start to move the helicopter over here, you'll see this line, and it'll start to extend, and it gets longer and longer. Let's point somewhere where we're not going to hit anything. We'll go over there. Okay, and I'm going to trim the helicopter. I don't want to go too fast. Right, so this line is telling us which way we're drifting. It is fairly obvious. You can see on the floor you've got a point of reference, so we're drifting over that direction. This is our heading, but we're drifting that way. When you get to 50, this line disappears. Now, when you get to 50, you should know which way you're going. But if you were over snow or over water or in the clouds, it's really difficult if you've got nothing around you. Okay, you'll see that disappear as soon as that hits 51. And we're drifting off that way. And I'm not touching anything, look. Which is great if you want a cup of tea or a drink, because you can just trim it and it sits there. Now, the trimmer on this is a little bit different to the trimmer on the Huey. Remember that we've got two rotors, we haven't got a tail rotor, and this trims everything. Not only that, it has a 20% control over the control system. So what do I mean by that? When you trim, right, the trimmer will manage the first 20% of your controls, your inputs. So if you've got an input from 0 to 100, the first 20, if the trimmer's set, will take control. So what that means is this helicopter will keep on doing what you've told it to do no matter what. Okay? If I start pushing my controls more than 20%, it'll start reacting to me, but it'll also resist. It feels awful, because usually when you move helicopters around, you've got just a little bit of movement. Okay? when you're trying to push, you've got to push more than 20% just to get it to do anything. I mean, watch. There's the... I showed you with the Huey the little movements. Look. As soon as I let go, it goes back. Can you see? If I push the helicopter, what speed we're doing? Let me slow this down a little bit. Okay, so we got the line there. Right, I'm going to turn the helicopter around. Now, if you start to fly the Shark without understanding this, it feels sluggish. It feels like it's fighting you. So I'm going to push to the left. I'm going to push my rudder. And I'm going to point the helicopter over here. And I'm going to accelerate up to about 50 perhaps. And it just feels like it's fighting me, okay? I haven't got a fine control or anything. Now watch what happens when I let go of everything and take my feet off. Pause the head tracking. That gives me a second or two to pick up a cup of tea. Can you see what it's done? It's pointing back where it was when I set the trimmer. That's how much control the trimmer has. Okay? And you've got to remember that all your flight control surfaces go through those two blades. So when you trim, you're trimming everything. If I want to go over here, for instance, and I trim it going on a, let's have a look, left turn. Alright, I'll just let go again. Pause that and it'll just sit there. And unless it's doing anything really drastic, it'll sit there going round and round forever. Now, you might think, well, how the hell do you fly it? And that's quite simple, really. You just fly it, you use the trim, and there's a method. And that is you disengage the trimmer. So now there is no trim. If you look, you can see the diamond is where it was. That's where the trimmer's set. When I do what I'm doing now, the helicopter will move as I want it. I've got full control over the helicopter because I've disengaged the trimmer. When I set the trimmer, I basically point it where I want to go, release the trimmer and watch the diamond jump. And then, like the Huey, I also release the joystick. And now it's going off in that direction. As long as my controls aren't more than 20%, it can control it. Now, as you can see, it's is it speeding up? It's going up. I'm going to just drop the collective a little bit. You'll see this speed up a little bit, and you can actually balance the speed and the climb just with a collective and enjoy your cup of tea. Okay? And the way this works is, unlike the Huey, when you press and hold the button that sets the trim, it disengages the trimmer. When you let go of the trim, it engages the trimmer. So when I'm manoeuvring or I want to go in a particular direction, I hold the trimmer down, and when I'm there, I let go of the trimmer and then let go of the stick, and it'll just start going where you want it to go. What you've got to understand is this is 20% of the control authority is on the trimmer. All right, it's a really nice helicopter to fly. You can maneuver it round and it'll just go where you tell it to go. Really nice and simple. Now, one of the other interesting things while we're going along, we're talking about blades and lift. If we look at the blades on this is something you must know. Can you see how they're getting closer on the right hand side? And that's because when you move forward, The blade on the top rotates one way. Let's get up into the clouds a little bit from this point of view. The blades on the top rotate one way. The blades on the bottom rotate the other way. As a consequence, the blade on the top lifts on the left and the blade on the bottom lifts on the right. So at the moment that's not too bad there, but the faster I go, the more lift is induced in the blade, the closer those blades start to get. And if you don't take notice of the alarms that you get, those blades will collide. The other thing you've also got to bear in mind is that if I do a sudden movement with the cyclic or the rudder, then that will also push those blades together. Okay? Remember earlier I was talking, the lift is 90 degrees to the direction. No, 90 degrees to the front, that's it. And it looks like it's opposite sides depending on which way the rotation is. So you've got to be careful, otherwise you'll get a blade strike. So as soon as you hear the alarm, you need to back off on your collective, disengage the trimmer and pull back on your cyclic so that it takes the pressure off the blades, and you'll find they'll even out and you should be fine. What else was I going to talk about on this? Oh yeah, this helicopter is capable of doing a very stable hover. Okay, and let me slow down and then I'll show you what the hover's like. You can engage the auto hover when you're doing 12 kilometers. Now this is important because you can do something similar in the Apache, and the way I would do it is the same. Now, even though it's gonna, let me just bring the nose up. Even though it's going to, the reason it's shaking is because it'll go into a VRS. This will VRS as will any other helicopter, as I talked about with the Huey. It's always better with both helicopters to only engage the auto hover when you're going as slow as possible. So let's have a look. Say I want to go over there by those by this little brook. So I want to slow down. Right, I'm disengaging the trimmer. I'm manoeuvring down. I want to go down here. I want to get into an auto hover soon. I'm going to slow down, and I'm just putting a slight turn in this to slow it down a lot. Okay, now
Lower gear.
when
Lower
it starts to get less than 50, you get a line. So if you move this line as slow as you can, or sorry, move the speed as low as you can, use the line to go opposite. Watch how quick this gets into a hover. Okay, so I've pressed the button, it's sitting there, it will go into a hover and we should be fairly stable. Okay, and that's just a few seconds. It's got a slight drift on it, but it goes into a hover really, really well. Now if I told you could do this with the Apache as well, which is where the control and that comes in, it's more or less the same. What this helicopter does, it takes a GPS reading and then uses the trimmer system, which has got a 20% authority, to keep it in the same place. Even if there's a bit of wind, it will stay there because it will adjust. Okay, the trimmer authority on this is 20%. On the Apache, it's not. So what we'll do now is jump into the Apache and we'll have a look at the control of that. One thing you got to notice as well is this fourth light has come on, and that is the altitude hold. So that comes on automatically when you press the auto hover button, and there's an indicator here to say you're on auto hover. So remember, when you disengage the auto hover, you need to also switch off this auto hover fourth channel. Is everybody okay with that, how the trimmer works? Anyone got any questions? And we'll jump into an Apache. Again, with the Apache, not too interested in startups.
Where do you map your trim on your HOTAS?
On my HOTAS, right, I use, I try and use the same button. I use the CMS switch on the Warthog, but it's countermeasures for most things, but in helicopters it's my trim. However, when I get into the Apache, it's different. I use the TMS hat. Have you got a Warthog by any chance? And with this as well, there's a trimmer reset, and you never want to use the trimmer reset. You just alter the trim. Disengage the trim, alter the trim, but don't use the trimmer reset. I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, yeah, I always put it, when you set your trim, ideally you want it on your throttle. Not your throttle, sorry, your joystick, right? And you want it in a position that isn't going to make you change your grip on your stick. So if, for instance, you've got it on a hat where you've got to pull your hand back and then your thumb is too far away from the direction that your fingers are gripping in, then you're going to find it difficult. So ideally, you want your thumb to be as closest to the trimmer as possible. And on the Warthog, that gives me the CMS, which is on the side of the stick, or the TMS, which is just above it on the left of the stick. But, excuse me, I can still maintain the level of grip and control on the stick. Just finishing my cup of tea. The reason why I mention this...
What I've done in the past. Main, central hat felt most natural. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Trimmer reset. This is really funny. There was a big hoo-ha when the Apache came out, and people were moaning that there wasn't a trimmer reset on it, and they demanded a trimmer reset. There is no trimmer reset on the Apache, and I could not believe that Eagle Dynamics basically put in a trimmer reset just because people wanted one. And that told me that they didn't know how to fly it. And it's the same as this, but there's a trimmer reset on this. So I've got my helicopter trimmed, as you can see, quite forward. Watch what happens to the helicopter when I hit the trimmer reset.
Electrics on battery.
All right, excellent. Do you see what I mean? Is that what you want your helicopters to do, really? You have a trimmer reset. You keep adjusting the trimmer. Do you know what I mean? It's like sort of ridiculous. And they demanded a trimmer reset. It's unnecessary. And I'll show you why. We'll just jump into an Apache. I won't be on too long more. I know some of you are dropping off. Probably sending some of you to sleep as well, which is fine. Right, okay, let's go and get an Apache. Not interested in startup. We're interested in how the trimmer works. This is all about trimming and how, if you fly the Huey or learn the Huey, how much easier it is. Is this? Oh, it is. How much easier it is right, to fly this if you understand the Huey and understand the shark. Okay, so I'll go through the startup. I'll just whiz through it. I'm not interested in weapons and things like that, so all we're interested in is it flying. Right. Did the yes, it did. It's been a while since I've been in this myself, to be honest. Let's take that off. Alright, it missed that. Do it again. Come on. Just wasn't ready. Right, so we just started up the first engine. So again, now I can't remember some of the proper terminology. I need to read this. You notice this is quite different. The terminology is different as well, but what I'll be explaining is fundamentally the same, only the terminology for this is a tad different. The thing is with helicopters is you don't panic, you move. Oh, by the way, welcome to the channel. Yeah, hair product. I did forget because I'd got my head in what I was doing. Okay, so that one's there. Let's get this second one going. We can just see it there. So this was a little bit of an odd stream. I wasn't going to stream, I randomly decided to do it when I was trying to do something else. Right, so we're just waiting for this. So I'll go back down below 70 once the engine started.
Just followed on YouTube as well.
Okay, thank you.
My gunfighter actually hasn't arrived yet. It's stuck in customs, so I'm jonesing for flight sim and getting some ground school timing on some modules.
Oh, right, okay. What you flying? Is it? Did you say it was mostly aircraft? Is it, or are you flying all sorts? Have you just started on DCS? Now, when I talked about auto hover, right, the hover in this is just a little bit different. Right, as it's less than 70, I can push the throttles forward now.
Apache is my first module, but I have a ton of experience in armor,
Okay.
etc.
That's fine, but just if you've flown helicopters. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the prime sub, Spider-Man 79.
Get your toes wet.
Also picked up Flaming Cliffs 2024 to get my toes wet with a variety of aircraft.
Yeah, just this is the thing. Flaming Cliffs always seems like such a good deal, right? But they're all imports from a very early game called Flaming Cliffs, which were imports from a game called Lock On. So you had Lock On at Flaming Cliffs, then DCS. When DCS started, you literally bought the Black Shark. That was the whole game, right? When the A10C came out, you bought the A10C, that was the whole game. So you had the Caucasus map, all the AI stuff, all the map building, the lot, but as independent, separate games. And then they bought the ability to put the modules together in one big world called DCS World. Now the problem is the Flaming Cliffs, it gives a lot of people the impression that they're going to get more planes and things, but because they're imports, they're not high fidelity, and what that means is that you haven't got a clickable cockpit and the flight model is not the same. Okay, so you're dealing with older planes and it just gives the wrong impression. I would always say to people, save your money, wait for a sale, and then buy from DCS a module, right? Now if you notice when I said buy from DCS, that's distinct from buying from Steam. One of the things, if you get your account from DCS, is that you can trial most modules and maps from DCS for 2 weeks, and they'll just work for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks it will stop, and then you download another module and try that for 2 weeks, and so on. After 6 months you can do it all again. So by the time you get towards the end of the modules, right, you can start with the one you started with again for another 2 weeks. So you effectively gain a month of free flying out of every single module to see what you like. Once you've done that, wait for a sale. They typically have 4 sales a year, but they really have 6 or 7 sales a year. Like there'll be a Lunar New Year one starting in Feb, and you'll pick some of the modules up from anything from 30, 40 to 50%. So the Huey at the beginning, is typically 50%, which is about $25, and that's incredibly good. Right, let's have a look at this then. So yeah, it's do you see what I mean?
I bought the Apache on Steam unfortunately before I knew about the DCS specific storefront. I knew going into FC they were compromised.
Yeah, that's fine.
But wanted something more arcadey to play around with when I don't have the energy for study level aircraft.
No, that's absolutely fine. Did you know you can convert your account over and the modules you've got currently in Steam will attach to your account in DCS? And if you Google it, right, or go onto the thingamajig, already done.
Unfortunately.
Right, yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Okay, good. Right, let's switch this back on and let's have a little look. Right, okay. Now, with the Apache, let me switch this off because it'll bleep at me like crazy. As I said, I haven't done a full startup. I'm not interested in everything. When we take off, right, that's if I can take off. You see on the top left the torque. Can you see it? So that's the torque I'm applying. Now there is a button, if I can remember what the hell it is. Let's have a little look. Bearing in mind we haven't set it all up. Down in here. Why can't I remember it? Perf. There we go. Right, this will show you what amount of torque you need in ground effect, and I explained ground effect with the Huey earlier on, and outside ground effect. And remember, this, as far as I'm aware, is unladen, so I can get away with 66 torque or roundabout in ground effect, and 83 in outside ground effect with a current weight at the moment. So what we're going to look at, he hopes, is once we take off, I'm doing some left rudder, pushing the stick slightly left, look. Okay. Can you see the little ball down at the bottom? The little ball, the faster I go, that's going to extend. Okay, that's just the same as the little line in the shark. The other thing on the left hand side across the dotted line is my speed in kilometers. Okay, and on the right is my altitude. Now, the way the trimming works on this, and I haven't trimmed anything yet, is exactly the same as the shark. So I haven't set the trim, but I'm going to hold my trimmer. I'm going to adjust the helicopter to where I want to go, more or less. Then I'm going to let go. Now, if you watch the thing on the top, when I let go of this, okay, and reset, you'll see, oh, it's not great, is it? Let's give it a bit more movement, shall we? In fact, I might not have got that far to even have it switched on. I know I haven't started it all up. Is it working? Yeah. You can see the crosses, look. Can you see them? That's where the trimmer's set. Right, let's go a little bit more. Let's push this over here a little bit. And let's see. Right, set the trimmer. Let go. No, I haven't got that far. Oh, I have. Look here. There we go. So you can see that the trimmer is holding this, okay? And it works exactly like the shark, but it only gives you a certain percent of authority, and the authority on the pitch and the x-axis is different, and it's really low. It's something like 4% and 6%. I can't remember the exact figures. The fact is, it works in the same way as the shark. So if you can get used to the trimming on the shark, then this also works in the same way. We can also see where we're drifting. We can see what our speed is. Now, if we look at this, on the same trimmer hat that you're going to set, we can press it to the left and box this, as you can see there. And now it's going to hold our attitude. Okay? And if we go around to the right, we can, once I drop this one down as well. Now, it's really quite sensitive. If I push it to the right, we're going to hold our altitude, right? And if it can't hold the altitude or the attitude, we'll hear a beep and it'll tell us on here, and it will flash. Okay? So this is now flying like the shark. However, you've got a hat with 4 positions. Left is attitude hold. Right is altitude hold. Forward, right, forward and hold and adjust is your trimmer. And aft is you reset this and this. And the way the attitude works, this one, is if you're going more than 40 kilometers, it assumes you want the attitude to be held. If you are going less than 40 kilometers, it thinks you're going to try and get into a hover, so it goes into a hover. Now, obviously 40 kilometers is a lot, and if you're going to wait for it to get into a hover, then you're going to be waiting a long time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is reset this. There's a beep, and I'm going to get down a little bit. I want to get into a hover, say, as good as the shark. Now, I might be able to, I might not. I haven't flown this for a while, to be fair. But knowing how to fly the Huey and the other one, then the knowledge I've got and the practice I've got in the other ones is going to help me in this, which is my point. So I'm going to hold the trimmer down. I'm going to start dropping the collective a little bit, pulling the nose back a little bit because I don't want to go up into the air, and start reducing my speed. Okay, I'm still holding the trimmer. Now if I just let go now, it'll slow down a bit more. I know it will. And you can throw this around a lot more than I am at the moment, believe me. So what I want to do is slow it down in the same way as I did, right, with the shark. So I'm pulling in the opposite direction gently, holding the trimmer down. You can see the speed I'm doing. I'm going to have to put more left rudder on, pulling it right the way down, right the way down. Oops, accidentally caught that. And that's the trouble where it is on my stick. Okay, more left. Come on. And I'm going to get it as slow as I can. And then I'm going to engage the attitude hold. That hold, let go. It's a little bit wobbly. I'm going to put that back there. And you'll see you can actually get this to hover nearly like the shark. We've got a bit of sideways drift. When you're in a hover like that, it shows you what the wind is, which is about right. I'm going to just hold that a little bit and help it, he says. Might be easier to reset that. All that. Just pull this back a little bit. A little bit more. Now set it. The number there should be similar, and then pop the altitude hold as well when it's what I want it to be. Okay, you get the gist, and you're able to do that if you understand how the Huey works and how the shark trimming works, and then utilize the information from there to make this fly a lot better. This is telling me what the wind is. You can see, look, I'm not moving. I am stationary. Wind is about 8. And the trimmer, right, those percentages, which one day I'll actually look it up and learn it, is what's holding it in position. And you can see sometimes that the blades, like, see there's a tilt on the blades, countering that bit of breeze, and I'm not moving. Okay, so Mr. Too Much Hair product, did you realise you could do that with this as well? If you just leave it to, and you're down below 40 and you press it, it will eventually get there. The problem is it'll take too long. Unfortunately on this helicopter there isn't a what's the word, collective brake, as far as I'm aware. But I would go and hide behind some buildings or some trees.
I assumed it was all manual trimming on the Apache.
Yeah.
These systems should make things a lot easier.
Yeah, good. At least somebody's picked something up. You can see where the wind is, look. It's blowing right to left. And you can see it on that tree over there. It just gives you a little bit more. So if I was going to go on attack, I would be sort of down behind the buildings and over the trees, which I can do just by very gently lowering the collective. If I don't want to go too mad on it, I don't want to do a reset, because I'm lowering the collective more than its trimming can hold. It should start going down. It'll beep and it's saying I can't hold that, I can't hold that. It will obviously make the helicopter go down, so I'll keep bringing it down Or better still, I won't be this high when I come to stop. And I don't mind which way I'm facing at this point in time.
If you input a ton of cyclic or rudder, does the trimmer disable itself?
It won't disable itself. It'll start to move. Excuse me. Or was I talking then? Yeah, the trimmer only holds, I think it's like 4 in the one axis, 6 in pitch. So it's nowhere near what the Shark is capable of. But I would have flown into that gap there, pointing, excuse me, ideally in the sort of general direction of targets, although if I've got an FCR on there, fire control radar, doesn't really matter too much which way I'm facing. And then I'd sit down behind these trees and then just slowly lower it up enough and then scan with the FCR to be able to do stuff. But, you know, you can see how you can make this thing just sit there, as I said. And that's using the trimmer, the altitude hold and the attitude hold. Just remember that this is the wind. You can see there's no drift at all. Anyone got any questions? And this is why I say that if anybody's ever going to try and fly the Apache, learn the basics with the Huey first. Learn the trimming system in the Shark. And then when you get to this, it gives you a good grasp. Right. Anybody else learnt anything other than too much hair product? I don't suppose you're bald at all, are you, by any chance? I just wondered. You're either bald or you're of an age where, you know, you are fussy about your hair.
He said, "No, I missed it. Can you do it again?"
Hey, Horny, how the devil are you, matey? How you doing? Are you back up and running again yet or not?
Hi mate, how's you and tea lady?
Yeah, I'm good. She's off ill from work at the moment. But other than that. So is everybody happy with the things that I've showed them with the Huey, the
no, she okay?
Shark? Yeah, she's okay, but she works in a care home, so what she's got at the moment means that she can't be at work to give it to the residents. Still not moving, can you say? It just sits there. But you wouldn't believe it, do you know what I mean? No, she's nearly in a care home. She spends most of her life. It's good practice for me, that's what I reckon.
Looking after you.
Yeah, she will do eventually. Anyway, sorry. Anyone got any questions?
Not bored. Haha. Really enjoyed the stream. Thanks for answering my questions.
You're welcome. My normal stream is Saturdays from... Depends whether I've got to take it to work or not. But it's from round about 9 or 10 till about 2 or so. And then Star Citizen on Sundays. No, matey.
Too much hair.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm in +9 time zones.
9.
Hopefully I can catch some more soon.
+9. Where are you over states? Why?
FFS, not again.
Yeah, I'm sort of on a permanent holiday at the moment, Horny. I can't say too much because I'm just waiting. In fact, I can't say anything about the particular thing, but I can say... No, it's fine. Don't be sorry. I was working in Doncaster, for God's sake. But I sort of called somebody out for being a bully. And so the retribution was to try and make me go into the office more, which is just, 12 or 13 hours a day. Oh, yeah.
Too much hair product said, I've been trying to get Star Citizen to stop infinite loading for several days and I can't get it to work.
Infinite loading. Have you actually been in there at all?
Corny said, I still do 12 hours a day.
No, I know. I used to do 12 to 13 and I'd got a 4-hour, 5-hour drive.
New PC, so it's a new install.
It's a new install. Sorry about this, guys, but I don't mind helping people out with any queries. Shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. You've got your account. You've got something on the account. So you've bought a module, have you? You bought a starter package. Just make sure that when you say you can't get it to load, is that once you've gone into the initial menu, then you try and enter somewhere and then it won't load.
2021.
Ah, right, okay. What I was going to say. So yeah, so can you get into the menu part, you know, before you try and get into anywhere else? Because what you want to check, just make sure you go onto your account online and check that your module is in your hangar. So you can see that by logging in online and then checking to make sure it's in the hangar. Because if it's not in the hangar, it'll work when there's a free fly, but not otherwise. And then if you, I suppose you've already done your delete.
I can get into the menus, create a
Yeah.
character, arena command
Yeah.
works, but the persistent universe load won't work. Also verified my module is in place and did a character repair.
That's a little bit. You've done the character repair, you've tried everything. Log a ticket with them. Also, I take it you've Googled infinite load. And make sure, A, that you've got no virus checking on the folders. And if you do get round to reinstalling, don't forget there's something in App Data Local under Star Citizen as well. But yeah, it shouldn't be doing that to you. But if not, log a ticket.
We'll check that out. Thanks again.
No worries. Right, anyone else got any questions or anything? Do you all understand what I said? And if you have just arrived, it is the Apache. Just sitting there, doing what it does. If you have only just arrived, if you look back on the stream, no matey, it's a lot more. I tell you what, they really knackered it with the last patch though. It's a bit of a balls out, but it's getting there. Does look quite nice. Jump onto the stream on Sunday, Horny, and watch me, Stingy and Pup just make a complete hash of everything. Probably end up in prison. So basically, before you ever jump in an Apache, go and use the Huey. Learn how to fly helicopters. SC on Sunday, DCS Saturday. Try the Shark and understand how the trimmer works. And then when you jump into the Apache, you'll have a much better grasp of it all. Right, I think that's enough for me now. If anyone's got any more questions. Yeah, we all good. Alright, I'll pass you on to someone else. Let me go and have a look, see who's streaming. Although it's such a weird time of the day. Especially for me to be streaming anyway. Let's have a look, see who's on.
Why is Cameron moving away at 1 inch per year?
Why is the moon moving away? Because
No.
because maybe, is it 1 inch? Is it as much as that? Because it's always tried to escape the moon as it's just held in by gravity. But the speed it's travelling, which I don't think I know what the speed of the moon is, but it's pretty damn fast. And eventually it will slowly start to inch away. Excuse the pun. That's what everything does. That's what everything does to a gravitational pull. It's trying to escape, but it can't escape the gravity unless it's above a certain speed. For instance, the space station, right, is going around, and that's got a 0.9% gravity, and it's about 100k. I think it moves at 7,900 meters. Is it a second? Something like that. I know you shouldn't have asked me, matey, because now I'm just nerding you out.
Miles per hour constantly falling.
Yeah, constantly falling, and it's just at the right speed to escape. So, how far away? How far away is the moon, and what's the speed of the moon? It must be just fast enough to escape the gravitational pull. Anyway, with that, let me pass you all over to somebody. I'll pass you over to this guy. I think he's English speaking. Have you noticed?
Normally it needs to fire its thrusters to keep it in orbit due to atmospheric drag.
Is that the
To mate.
Is that the moon? Is that what you're telling me? Right, all. Thank you very much for watching. I'll try and raid this guy.
ISS.
Always give people support on DCS. When I came on originally, there was 12 people in its entirety watching DCS, and I was like, oh my god, is that all? So please, if you fly, stream, and just to publicise and get people involved. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you again sometime. Cheers. See you, Horny. See you, Arthur, if you're still there.
Like an idiot.
Like an idiot. Alright, I'll see you 10 of it. See you, bye.
Mel12345, thanks for the raid, man. I appreciate it. Now I'm too heavy. By 70 pounds? CLTD is nuts! I just don't... If I'm gonna take the targeting pod, I might as well take the laser. Oh, thanks for the follow, too. If I'm going to take the targeting pod, I should take the laser mabs. I remember, Mel. Killed me with the sword, Mel. Tea Kettle Barbecue. Thanks for the follow. Tea Kettle Barbecue. I like it. Mm-hmm.